we're now going to get into the sort of nitty-gritty of like what's working, what's not, what should we be doing differently, what are the experiences of our illustrious group of marketers on the panel here. So before we kick off, do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Sure, I'm Tara Powadiuk, and I lead the media partnerships internationally for Microsoft.
Hi everyone, I'm Allison Engel, and I lead global marketing for the marketing solutions business here at LinkedIn.
I'm Gareth Case, I'm Global Marketing Director for Xchanging PLC.
And I'm John Watton, I lead the European marketing for Adobe Marketing Cloud.
Thank you. So we've talked about B2B being the Cinderella of marketing and sort of today arriving at the ball for the first time. I'm keen to hear your thoughts on why is that the case? Why is B2B becoming more prominent today than it has been over the last couple of years? And how do you think that will potentially change the industry? So Tara, over to you.
Well, I think it's really exciting for us as B2B marketers because, we've always done all of our marketing under the guise of authenticity, of telling stories, of having our customers a part of that story with us. And I feel like the consumer marketing space is moving into that with us now. It's all about authenticity, telling a real story that is true and something that consumers can believe in. And so I feel like, it's nice because the tables have turned and there's something that B2C can learn from B2B.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, marketing is actually a bigger Cinderella in the ball of business. Like I think the role of marketing in terms of the strategy, the complexity, and the impact it's having is becoming more strategic and more powerful within companies than it has in the past. So I think the function is becoming, has been elevated, in a really meaningful way. And I think as part of that, with B2B, I think Allison hit a lot of it this morning in terms of, the goals and objectives are basically the same. It's kind of the path to get there that's more complicated. And I do think you see a pattern of at the end of the day, it's about the buyer's journey and kind of where are people going and how are they getting there, and it's the B2B marketers that I think are setting the pace for how to use social media and how to drive real results.
My view is I think the people in this room and the B2B community as a whole, I think it's recognised now that we've got the toughest job in the marketing industry. I don't think there's any question about that, and I think we should all give ourselves a round of applause. So we'll start there. One of the challenges I think around B2B specifically is always demonstrating the value that we're bringing to our businesses. I think now, in terms of the way technology's moved on and the fact that it's given us a much easier place to justify the existence of B2B marketing budgets and justify some of the results that we're getting and the return on investment that we're demonstrating from our activity means that we're really in a place to shine now. And I genuinely believe the job of B2B marketers is tremendously difficult compared to B2C. We're not talking about a shift of 0.5% market share from Coke to Pepsi. We're talking about getting influencers and decision makers and the C-suite within our prospect and customer bases to invest significant sums in often very large complex projects that have sales cycles of anywhere between 6 and 18 months in Xchanging as example. And that's a very, very different message to get across and a very, very different buying cycle from what they're experiencing in B2C. So yeah, I think it's our time to shine.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really is right now just a great time to be involved in B2B marketing. I've been doing this for more years than months, so let's just say that. And over that time, I've had to market to some of the audiences that were mentioned earlier. So, even in the most B2B of industry, I had to market into the commercial shipping industry, into people who run oil tankers and merchant ships, right? That's a tough industry. Not only that, I had to market into procurement managers, to Doug's point, in those industries. And even in those industries, the audiences you deal with now are more and more interacting with your brand digitally. So I think we're at a sort of perfect storm right now in terms of our buyers moving digitally. I think the technology was for many years the friction point, right? It was just too expensive to do this stuff with the technology, and your customers weren't there anyway. Now that technology acquisition cost has come right down with some of the stuff we've seen this morning. And so it's easier for us as B2B marketers in big and small brands, and I've worked in big brands, I've worked in small brands, to get access to this technology to allow us to scale beyond our means. And I think to the point that we mentioned, I think just generally the industry is getting more sophisticated, and I absolutely agree that B2B is just far harder, right? Not only do we have to do that rational thing now, we have to do all the emotional stuff. And, you know, it's not about convincing a housewife to take a packet of soap powder off her shelf in 10 seconds. We have to kind of do all of that, right? Because in the digital space, it's so noisy, combined with the business case, the rationale, the multiple buyers, we have to build relationships over 6, 9 months, 12 months to get a decision made. It's not this instantaneous thing. So I think all of those things, I think it's just a great time. I think all of that's just mean the market has matured and we're kind of in a much better place than we were when I started out a couple of decades ago.
Thank you. So for the last couple of years, we've had this incredibly tough economic climate.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, sort of a lot of marketing has become far more metrics driven, and the ROI is increasingly more important today than it ever has been in the past. And in the B2B world, traditionally that's made sense because everyone's been measured on the number of marketing qualified leads that they're generating. But increasingly, as B2B moves into this brand world, the metrics become softer in many respects. So I'm keen to hear your thoughts on sort of how that transition has been going within your respective organizations, and then how you end up sort of justifying the investments that you're making on the sort of brand building side versus the traditional lead gen tactics.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have a blend across those things. So first of all, I think it's absolutely fantastic and essential that we have the numbers into B2B marketing. For too many years, I think B2B marketing has played second fiddle to sales organizations who could put numbers on the board. And I think the reality is in B2B, you have to put those numbers down, and we weren't very good at it, and we kind of we didn't do ourselves any services as a kind of industry. And I think that's great now, and our conversations are absolutely metrics driven in terms of the conversation we have. It's important to show the ROI and the value, but it's also to be in the game at the table with the other stakeholders in your business as well. So I think that's the sort of the second value of numbers. But it's art and science, right? And to your point, we have a blend of, we use the Serious Decisions waterfall, INQs, MQLs, SQ, coming out of ears, right? Pipeline, ACV, contribution to bookings. I mean, that's our daily life. But there are some things we need to remember when our audiences are digitally connected. So I love this one, right? I'm about to say something. In the time it's taken me to say this sentence, 20 million emails have been sent. Right, I'll say that again. In the time I've said this sentence, 20 million emails have been sent. 40 million emails now have been sent. And if you're in a noisy industry like we are, digital marketing technology, we're very noisy competitors. It's a very noisy space. So you need the art as well. You need to build that brand. You need people to have that emotional connection. And when people say, why did they choose, Adobe, Xchanging, LinkedIn, Microsoft, a B2B buyer, they don't say, well, we did a full ROI and we did a calculation and you were 7.6 versus 7.5. They say because we trusted you, because there was good chemistry, because we felt we'd get on your team, because you were reliable. They're very emotional things. So we use some metrics beyond there, and I'll just keep this bit shorter, sorry. So yes, we have brand awareness. We're lucky enough to be a big brand around that. And then we also look at the impact of marketing kind of post-opportunity, so the kind of touches we have on people we're already in conversation with, which is important for our kind of brand and kind of market position. But it's art and science now, and that's why I love B2B marketing, because you have to do all these things, and it's hard and it's difficult. But at the end of the day, everyone in this room is kind of creating a new category. No one's done this before, and it's really exciting. So I think that's great. Sorry, Gareth.
No problem. I think analytics are fine. I think we need to be careful not to take them too seriously. I mean, we measure social analytics, automation analytics, email analytics, web analytics, and we've got numbers coming out of our ears. And unless you're interrogating the numbers there and actually feeding that back into the marketing strategy to get something out of it, then it's kind of pointless collecting all the data in the first place. So my advice here would be to invest in someone within the team that can analyse the data properly. And we touched on, specialists and the death of the one-dimensional marketer earlier, and I've got some thoughts around that. But having someone in the team that can interrogate that data and turn it into some value for the business is really, really important.
Yeah, I mean, similar for us. I think the measurement's crucial. I think but you have to staff it. You have to resource it. It can't be I hope it comes, or when it comes. You have to put capable people on it. I think for us, we really look at it on 3 dimensions. The first is obviously looking at the business results, the bookings and the pipeline. The second is, and probably what's something we spent a lot of time on this past year as we've shifted to content marketing, is understanding the channel effectiveness, right? Generally, everyone at any company has some resource constraints, and so understanding what channel is most effective and the campaigns going through that channel. is key. As Jason talked about, we're seeing almost 50% of our traffic to all of our campaigns flowing through our blog, right? So investing in our blog is kind of is job number one. So those insights by channel is also important. I think the third is also measuring sentiment. We spent a lot of time with our communications colleagues really understanding the sentiment pre-post launches to get a good sense of kind of brand reaction. But at the end of the day, Gareth is right. I mean, the time with customers is also kind of the most important feedback loop that we have, right? You can look at the data. You need the context behind it to have it really inform your strategy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would agree with everything all three of you said, and I think that the space that we can be most successful in if we can now translate that data into a way that the sales organization wants to hear it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because it's about understanding the customers who are watching your videos and how they're then going on to take a next step, or how they're interacting in social that drives the sentiment, and serving that up as a line of business into a segment lead, and having them be able to do something with it and feel like they're better informed with what's going on in the industry the next time they're meeting with X customer or Y customer within that space. Yeah. And I think that that's like our next area that we as a community can really go in, because I think we've got lots of big data, we've lots of measurement, we've lots of analytics, but now it's about to Doug's earlier point, starting to talk the same language and getting it to that account level or that managed account group level, and having conversations in that space.
And all of this always sounds very daunting if you're not doing it already. And we talked about big data, right, Gareth? And you just mentioned there, Tara. We have enough problems with our little data to get onto big data, right? So that's the way I view it. And there are some basic fundamentals of B2B marketers that we all need to know and talk the language of. And it comes down to like 4 or 5 basic metrics in kind of classic B2B marketing. If you don't know as a B2B marketer your average deal size, your sales closure rate, and your average length of your sales cycle, then you're not going to get anywhere with any of your kind of data beyond that. If you just know those 3 or 4 pieces, then you can show how you can impact those 3 or 4 elements just to get started before we get into all this big data stuff. So there's some basic principles, and those set the groundwork for the conversations you have with your sales peers, who typically are probably the most important group that you deal with, because we all have some kind of direct sales team that we need to talk to. So forget the big data for now, just get the little data right, and then we can move on from there, I think.
Do you think that that data, that focus on sort of technology, marketing automation, CRM, sort of risks chipping away at creativity, which is what the B2C space is so well known for, and that we're sort of, from everybody that's been sort of discussing today, desperately trying to infuse and humanize and put some form of emotional sentiment into B2B?
Yeah.
It shouldn't. It should make you should be able to optimize creativity with effectiveness, right? So you should be able to I actually find for our teams, we spend a lot of time on creative and brand campaigns, and we create several iterations of them, because our executive team has one strong view, marketers have another. It's the same themes we've had today, and often the marketers do prevail when the results come through in terms of what's the right creative. But I think you can create more campaigns, you can test different ideas, and it's that ability to optimize that I think puts so much power behind the creative. It makes it more real, it makes it more tangible. And so not only having, and now with the, you can create campaigns at such a lower price point. So you don't have your one TV campaign and you hope, and pray that it works. You can create in digital so many different formats and expressions. I think it actually opens up a creative canvas that hasn't been there before.
Yeah, I was, you often get asked, so what works, what doesn't work. Someone says, so what's been your biggest mistake or your failure? And it's a bit of a cliche, but we're failing all the time, because the world now isn't about betting your entire budget on an ad campaign, waiting 6 months, get the agency to come back and say, oh, that didn't quite work, and it doesn't work like that. We're continually right now testing, A/B testing, multivariant testing, learning from that, promoting, things that are working over things that aren't working. We should always be failing, right? That kind of world also, is not how we should be doing our marketing now. So I think to that, you can test things out quite quietly to some extent over a 24-hour period. We use LinkedIn quite a lot. It's a great platform to switch stuff on, try it, doesn't get results, switch it off again. It's 24 hours. The world isn't going to be shocked by it. It's not going to be in, the social press and so on. So I think, there's opportunity, and And I think because it's this combination of emotional and rational buying, you have to have some creative element to it, and you have the ability to test that stuff without worrying about this massive long process, I guess what you're saying as well.
One of the, picking up on something that you said before in terms of the alignment with other teams, so you talked about having to be aligned with the sales team, which is, I guess, sort of foundational for any effective marketing organization. One of the trends we've started seeing is that marketers are aligning their message across consumer, B2B, corporate, and increasingly employer sort of talent branding. I was keen to hear your thoughts on that, whether that takes place in your organizations, whether you think companies are actually structured in a way that enables people to be successful across all of those different teams.
Yeah, I mean, working for Microsoft, we have a lot of products across consumer and commercial, and you know, I'd love to be able to say that John Smith, CEO, is the same John Smith who has 2 kids who we'd love to help him buy the next Xbox game to surprise him over Easter. And if there's anybody in the room who knows how to do that and can effectively speak to him at all the right levels, at all the right points in time, I will buy you lunch. I will buy your Easter vacation, actually. And it's not easy, and I think that one of the things that is helping us to move in the right direction and set the stage is really Satya's vision for us of helping people to do more, be more, and achieve more. And it's really simply stated, and it's something that, you know, I'm seeing in his very short time that he's been CEO. It's permeating how we do marketing in the consumer space and in the business space, and it's also permeating how our products are coming to life. So, you know, for me, you know, I said I wouldn't talk too much about our technology, so this is the last one. First one and last one. But for me personally, I use our Lumia phone, I Skype with my kids, I WhatsApp my friends, and I have my speaker's notes for today that I've got off of my OneDrive. And I think that, you know, sharing more stories like that really bridges that gap for us as a company. So whilst we may not be speaking to John Smith in a completely seamless, connected way from his CEO persona to his dad persona, we are trying to do it in how we communicate how our technology can cross that bridge from personal to work.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I mean, I think having the driving a company, your team, your business unit to one mission is really crucial and can be something that can create a competitive differentiation for your company. I think at LinkedIn, we're extremely vision and mission driven, and our mission is to connect the world's professionals and make them more productive and successful. And you will hear that expression come from the more than 6,000 people that work at the company. Every 2 weeks, our CEO holds a town hall of sorts with kind of the more than 20 LinkedIn offices piped into our headquarters in Silicon Valley. And so people are on message. It's kind of an amazing thing to see. Definitely some of that I think is effectively driven more top down, but there's no reason why every team, you know, shouldn't have kind of a very, and ideally every company have a very shared vision and have that carry through. And you'll hear people on recruiting calls, in messages, in blog posts kind of carry that same theme. So I think if your company can get behind that one mission and express that and tell the why, you'll see a different response from the people you're engaging with.
Thanks. Gareth, obviously sort of very different company size to Microsoft, sort of 70, 80,000, I think about 7,000 or so at Xchanging. Do you find it easier to have the message consistent across all of those different product lines, different business lines, or do you think it's equally as challenging no matter the size of the org?
I mean, we're a siloed organisation. I think most businesses, when they get to a certain size, become siloed anyway. And I think the challenge is the same. It's just on a slightly smaller scale. Internal alignment of messaging is absolutely vital. We work really hard on a kind of messaging architecture where we go from corporate down through the sectors, down through specific products. So that's how we get our messaging architecture right. But then when you take it to customers, you need to think more around personalisation. And we touched on the turkey earlier. For those that like the turkey, I'm a big fan of turkey, as you can see. And we roll something out at Xchanging, which I call four-dimensional marketing, which is a similar kind of model where we take the original piece of content and it needs to be really good. And then you can tweak that piece of content across a number of different dimensions. And the first one we look at is vertical markets. So, you know, should we be selling a product into, you know, a bank and messaging it the same way that we should be selling it into a public sector organisation? Absolutely not. So if we address 8 verticals, you then got 8 pieces of that original content already. We then look at the media in which we put that out, so blogs, white papers, newsletters, thought leadership pieces, PR and everything else. So assume there's another 8 of those. Suddenly you've turned your original piece of content into 64 pieces without needing to do anything else. And then the final dimension is job function, and this is the most important. And this is where we're heading to now with Xchanging. A message into a financial director or a CFO at a bank should be even more different than that into an ops director of a public sector organisation. And imagine you've got eight of those, you're then up to 512 pieces of content from an original source. And it's about getting the message internally absolutely crystal clear, providing sales enablement tools for the sales team in the ones that I've just spoken about, where they can go and position this that's going to meet the demands of the customer, spoken in their language and relevant to the generic persona that sits around CFOs, CTOs, CIOs. And whilst we don't know they've all got kids that play on the Xbox, we know that CFOs prefer to read white papers than social media posts because that's just the way they fit. So that's how we do it.
Yeah, and I think the biggest curse of a B2B marketer is this idea that everyone's seen your marketing and therefore you have to reinvent all the time and do new stuff. So in this spirit of turkey and slices, I've always called it just repimp your content, right? So it's a happy day. We're all going to go down the pub as B2B marketers at the end of the day. If we send out, let's take email. We send out an email and we have a 20% open rate. That's and then 3% click-through rate, 5%. Let's say 3% click-through rate. We'll all high-five each other. It's a great return. Let's go down the pub and celebrate. 3% have clicked through to see your content. That means 97% haven't. I mean, you could do the maths easily. So, there's no harm in taking that back out to the market and resharing that again, repurposing again. But we kind of get this kind of, focus that everyone's seen our marketing. And actually the reality is, in this noisy world with the drive-by kind of viewing on social and, I have 10,000 emails in my inbox, no one is seeing your marketing. Think of it like that. So how can you then repurpose it? So, we do that around thinking more, again, about the customer. Technology companies, we're really great at getting very excited about our products. And we have a lot of products and we go out and shout about how they're the best. Again, no one really cares, is what does it do for them? So we have the idea of, again, simple stuff around business topics. What are the things that really are of concern to the audience that we're trying to communicate to, and let's do it in that way. And that's a combination, I always think, of an individual's role, the type of company they're in, the industry they're in. So we do the same thing. We then say, how does this apply to a financial services company over a travel business and so on? And then take that piece of content and share it in different ways, and also repurpose it from a content perspective as well. But the biggest barrier to any marketing success is never the technology. It's never the ability for us to do stuff in rooms and come up with ideas. It's always organization. Whether I've worked in a 150-person company and I worked in a 100,000-person company, it's always the same, getting people to work together. You can work in silos when there's 200 of you, let alone 200,000 of you, right? So that's a real challenge, and I think we're all probably a little ahead of a lot of people, but it's nowhere near fixed, right? So we're all on this journey together, which is also nice for everyone in the audience to know that we have our problems as well, right? It's not all success in terms of what we're doing.
Absolutely. So we've got a couple of minutes left. Sort of penultimate question for you. From a technology perspective, is there anything that you've seen in the marketplace that really excites you at the moment?
I love the Lumia phone. It's fantastic.
Waiting for the reverse on Adobe.
I have the reverse. Well, actually, I was actually reading, so I'm a huge Netflix fan. And I do really believe in digital content, and one of the challenges for advertisers is the measurement of digital content and who's viewing it and how is it all going to be monetized, and that's a space that Adobe is really leading the way with Nielsen. And so, as an advertiser, that's exciting. As a consumer, it's also exciting because it means that Netflix is going to be producing more content that I want to watch. I love House of Cards, and I'm on season 3. So thank you.
You're welcome.
We've just taken a product on at Xchanging, which is a digital brand publishing tool, and I'm probably sat in pretty dangerous ground in between Adobe and Microsoft. I wrote a blog post a few weeks ago calling it the end of PDFs and PowerPoints. So if anyone
You didn't just say that.
I did.
Oh my God,
If anyone wants to read it, just connect with me on LinkedIn and you'll find it on there. But we're constantly looking for tools. We pride ourselves on innovation at Xchanging, and we're looking at tools to help us differentiate. And this tool brings not only an incredible reading experience for our customers and prospects across all the collateral that I spoke about a moment ago, but it also provides us analytics, something that PowerPoint and PDFs can't do. So that's kind of where we're at, and we're rolling that out now across the business. There's going to be around 350 to 400 pieces of customer-facing material within this platform in the next few weeks. And it's something that's going to give us a bit of a differentiator.
Right, just remind me of the name of the...
It's called Turtle without the E on the end.
Turtle with no E, potentially an acquisition for
So
Adobe.
just on that quickly, they're just come out of kind of stealth mode from a big round of investment, and we're the first company in the world to take the product on, so it's an exciting time for us. So there you go.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, I think I'll add a non-B2B marketing technology example, since we've been everyone is head high in that at this point today. For me, I'm a new homeowner in the San Francisco Bay Area, which means I'll be working forever to pay for my house, but which is good to be here. I think my husband's a huge musical fan, not by his profession, but by hobby. And so when we moved from one house to the other, we had speakers and cords and wires and amplifiers and stacks. You think I had a music production facility in my house. And so a brand named Sonos. How many people know Sonos? I assume lots of an audience. Gone are the wires, the adapters, the plugs, the connectors in the garage. And so now to have Wi-Fi music in my house is an extraordinary change. So it's been life-changing for us.
Nice. I'm a big fan of Sonos.
Yeah.
Final question for each of you. What's the one hope and one challenge for B2B marketing in 2015?
I'll kick off. I think the hope is that we get recognised for the work that we do, because as I said at the start of this conversation, that it's the most difficult place in marketing, full stop. And in terms of the challenge, I think it's down to us to get marketing up the value chain within our businesses. Gone are the days of us being the department that colours stuff in, and I'm sure everyone's heard that before. They're the guys that do the brochures, and we need to eliminate that and actually be seen as someone that's, a department and a team that's delivering true value back to the businesses that we work for.
I think for me, the hope is really getting to extraordinary content and content relevance. Jason talked about it. One of the joys of my job is having Jason Miller on the team. And so I think you need to be able to, the hope is you can attract the right talent to your business and then develop the really relevant content that's going to move the needle for what we're all trying to accomplish. The challenge, I think, will continue to be the right attribution of the programs, right? Getting down to marketing teams to deliver on what Gareth's talking about. You have to focus, you have to prioritize, which means you can't publish on every channel every minute of the day. You need to find what's working for you, and you need, back to the topic of measurement, you need the right attribution to be able to make that hard call and justify to the business, yes, an event is part of the mix, or no, I'm not going to do an in-person event. We're going to double down on digital marketing, and marketing needs to become less. When you move to digital, it can become, in a B2B world, it can feel invisible to sales teams, right? They don't see it, they don't feel it. But I think making all of that visible through measurement and metrics is still core.
I think for me, one of the hopes that I have is that we humanize B2B marketing. I've just done a bit of a research report understanding consumer video consumption, B2B video consumption, and where us as B2B have strength in humanizing our content and telling great stories. The engagement is amazing. It truly is. And so I feel like that's a space that is ready for us. We have the authenticity, we have the transparency. Now we need to take advantage of the mediums that the consumer space has traditionally led with and really own it in B2B. And that's something that I really hope that we all do. I think that a challenge we face is how to simplify. It's how to simplify how we measure it, how we invest in it, and how we follow John Smith, the CEO, to John Smith, the dad of two.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things. So I guess on the hope, I mean, I always say there are three things you need to have to be good at B2B marketing. You need to be able to cope with change. It's kind of a truism, especially in technology. Have curiosity and be able to take a risk. So, I hope that people have the curiosity to understand how certainly technology, digital marketing technology, can help them drive their business forward. And I think if you don't have that curiosity, you're probably going to be out-competed anyway. And then I think the challenge for us is how do we take these risks And I think risk now is a much softer thing than it was 5-10 years ago for some things we've mentioned already. So I just hope that we have the curiosity and I hope that we can overcome this challenge of taking a risk and pushing things forward, because I think collectively that will just move our kind of industry, our profession on within our businesses and as a collective, and I think that's really important.
Perfect. Thank you very much indeed. Appreciate you joining us today. Thank you. So just to quickly sort of in a couple of minutes wrap up the sessions today, I've been taking some notes around some of the themes that had been consistently sort of cropping up in the various discussions. The first is around values and humanization, and the fact that marketing starts with your corporate character, your belief system, your purpose and your mission. I think that started with Alison's references this morning. Tara just talked about the importance of humanizing your brand, keeping in mind that your decision maker is a parent, a brother, a sister, a community member, a CEO, but also a mother or a father in their downtime. Your message has to be authentic. It has to be humanized. Trust cannot be won. It is built over time. It's about having consistency over time with the message that you convey to your customers or potential customers. From the final sessions here, one piece of content can clearly go a long way. I love the turkey analogy. As you can see at LinkedIn, we took one piece of content, chopped it up, used it for a 12-month cycle, and it ended up being our #1 generator of marketing qualified leads out of all of the marketing initiatives that we had done. I think just the final comment here is B2B can certainly be fun. I think Cinderella has arrived at the ball in great style. And it just sort of to wrap up, a big thank you to everybody who's spoken today, a big thanks to our marketing team for helping put on the event, and most importantly, a big thank you to everybody in the audience for joining us. It is much appreciated. Thank you very much.